Kashmir breaks all records. The valley records the highest voter turnout in 35 years. Kashmir Valley has broken 35 years of poor voting records. Kashmir Valley registered 58.46% of votes. Kashmir has done well after 2019. Kashmir has 3 Lok Sabha seats. Jammu has 2 Lok Sabha seats. Kashmir Valley has recorded 58.84% of votes. Yes. Article 370 was abrogated in 2019. Turnout in 2019 was 19.6%. The lowest turnout was in 1989. In 1989, Anantnag recorded a low of 5%. Turnout in Srinagar was 38.49%. Turnout in Baramulla was 59.1%. Turnout in Anantnag Rajouri was 54.84%. Udhampur, Jammu recorded 68.27 and 72.22%. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his interview with the Wire agency, said that the feeling of belongingness has increased after the abrogation of Article 370 and the results are visible in elections. Let us listen in.
ये सिर्फ एक 5-4 परिवारों का ही एजेंडा था जी। ये न कश्मीर की जनता का एजेंडा था, न देश के लोगों का एजेंडा था। ये अपने फायदे के लिए ये 370 की ऐसी एक दीवार बना के बैठे थे ताकि कोई झोंक न पाए और कहते थे 370 हटेगी तो आग लग जाएगी। वो कहते थे 370 हटेगी तो कश्मीर चला जाएगा। आज ये सत्य हो गया कि 370 हटने के बाद ज़्यादा एकता की अनुभूति हो रही है, कश्मीर के लोगों का अपनापन ज़्यादा बढ़ रहा है और इसलिए इसका सीधा परिणाम चुनावों में भी दिखाई देता है, टूरिज्म में दिखाई दे रहा है। G20 समिट वहाँ होती है, बड़े शान से कश्मीर ने उनका स्वागत किया पूरी दुनिया का और इसलिए ये कैसे झूठी दीवारें खड़ी कर करके देश को टुकड़ों में देखा गया, इसका ये उदाहरण है और उसको मैंने ध्वस्त किया है।
Is high voter turnout a result of abrogation of Article 370? Have a new economic policy resulted in integration of Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India? On this, I am joined by Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, someone who has served in this region, who understands the valley, both politics and its security architecture. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on Point. My question to you is this turnout just a result of legalese of 2019 or something more has happened after that?
Well, we have been seeing the comparative turnout in various elections over the year. I've seen it since 1996. I was not there in the 1989 elections, but 1996 since then I've seen it. I can tell you one thing, that on the ground, in the morning whenever there was election days, we started always very, very tentatively. By midday, if we had achieved 3%, 4%, we said it's something fairly good, a turnout fairly good. We had a very low turnout in 89, but subsequently in 96 we had a higher turnout, 41% in the case of Srinagar. But that was attributed to an election taking place after 7 years and due to terrorism having taken a slight backstep in the year 1996. But thereafter it has always been a downward spiral. 2019 was different. After 2019 and the courageous steps that were taken, which the Honorable Prime Minister was just talking about, it has been a year-to-year event of confidence building. It's been also a lot of economics which have gone into it. There has been a lot of hope which has been built into it. And I see that Srinagar had 38%, Baramulla had 54%, Anantnag had 58%. Obviously, the confidence kept going with each election day and the hopes kept going. But let me also point out that a lot of people will look at this, can look at it and try and rationalize negatively and say that, see, this has happened because people want to come out and demonstrate against Article 370. that would be the furthest from the truth. Let me tell you, on ground, I visit Kashmir very often. I'm the Chancellor of the Central Kashmir University of Kashmir, so I am in touch with the people. I can tell you, a lot of people are thanking the central government that they have overcome this hurdle. This was a mindset which was there all these years. Everyone said Article 370, if it is abrogated, there is going to be a bloodletting in Kashmir. Nothing happened. It was managed extremely well. Unfortunately, COVID came in the middle, almost 2 years of COVID. If COVID had not come in the middle, perhaps the development agenda may have traveled even faster in the valley. And perhaps you may have seen even a greater turnout. So I do think we are looking up, and we are looking at the potential of holding the assembly elections sometime in the near future.
Mr. Hasnain, you know, if you look at the voter turnout, it was higher in Anantnag, higher in Baramulla, but Srinagar it was the lowest. Why was that? Though higher in contrast, but Anantnag and other areas, 2 constituency, they were like really good. Srinagar was where the maximum security is there. It was the lowest. Why in comparison?
Yeah, there is a very simple explanation for this, and this has always been happening in the past too. You see, Baramulla constituency extends right up to the line of control. It goes into the area of Gurez, it goes to the areas of Keren, it comes towards Uri, Tangdhar. Those are the traditional Pahadi areas. They are not the areas of the valley Kashmiris. There are a lot of Gujars in that area, lots of Pahadis in those areas. The Pahadis have just got certain rights which have been given to them, which was denied all these years. So what happens is that much against the expectations in Srinagar, there's always a better turnout. I remember Uri, since I've been the Uri brigade commander myself, I can tell you, averagely 70% turnout used to be there in the Uri constituency for the assembly elections every time. Now, similar thing has happened in Anantnag this time. Anantnag itself is on the valley floor, so it's got a very large population of Kashmiris themselves. But now that the delimitation has spread the constituency into Rajouri and areas of that kind, Thana Mandi, Rajouri and all these areas, therefore what has happened is again many Pahadis have entered into it, Gujars and Pahadis. So automatically those are all traditionally pro-Indian people. I am not saying that the Kashmiri is anti-Indian today. The Kashmiri may have more doubts in his mind. But I can tell you one thing, most Kashmiris I speak to today have overcome all those hesitations they had in the past, and they have come out for the elections as anyone else.
And before I let go of you, what has led to the change in the valley? Is it because of the integration? Is it because of the better security architecture? Is it because of the army like flushing out the militants, terrorists from the valley? What is one thing that has worked, that the turnout has been on the higher side? You know, the internet ban, the protest, the stone throwing, it has just vanished.
You see, there is no doubt about it that the earlier years, the lower turnout used to be very largely due to the insecurity connected with all the polling booths. I still remember standing at Avantipur, my headquarters, and looking down on the valley floor at that time. There are a number of places where there were grenade blasts, bomb blasts, terrorist attacks taking place a couple of years ago. But thereafter, today, what happens is each booth is secure. And I think the security forces have really got to act together. And it's not just the army. I being an army man will not claim that. It's the integrated approach of all the security forces. The army has contributed, as the army's Rashtra Rifles, the CRPF and the Jammu and Kashmir police have all played outstanding roles. Jointly, this whole exercise has been managed. Besides that, the confidence building, which has been done by the current Honorable Lieutenant Governor, has been extremely appreciated.
And the economic policies? The new economic policies?
Overall, I would say policies always make a difference. But sometimes it's a personality. Now,
Okay.
Mr. Manoj Sinha comes from Lucknow, comes from UP. He's quite conversant with the Urdu language. He speaks very fluent Urdu. He has a personality which is very forthcoming kind of a personality. So he goes down and meets the people and remains very comfortable with meeting people. And half the story in Kashmir is about meeting people, building their confidence through meeting people and shaking hands. I think that's been done extremely well in the last 4 or 5 years.
So basically you are saying it's not only the policies but the connect which the LG has with the people is making all the difference in the valley.
Not all the difference, but I will say definitely is one of the contributing factors, because you can have a leadership which will stand back and delivering in every field, in security, in economics, in education, in everything like that. And yet if you have got a personality who is sort of held back, it will never create that kind of chemistry. And today I find Mr. Sinha has been able to create that chemistry.
Do you think it has laid the ground for the local elections? Because that is one people want to know what will happen, because Lok Sabha elections can be managed. The proof of the pudding is in the local election, which is now the as a union territory, when the local people will get elected.
Absolutely. You see, assembly elections are always the bread and butter elections. They are the ones who are about local land issues, electricity, power, water and things like that. So you can expect a much larger turnout provided the security environment remains exactly as it is today. I don't have any reasons to believe that it will not remain like this. But I do think it's very fortunate that the Lok Sabha elections have proceeded, have come at such a time, and there's a short period, about 3 months to prepare. And by about September, I think that's what the Supreme Court has laid down, I think we should be in a position to be able to conduct assembly elections quite peacefully.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brijesh, Prime Minister must be a very happy person today with this collated data which is out.
Well, absolutely. And I think, when once the Article 370 was abrogated, there were all kind of fear mongering which was going on that, this could be the end of Kashmir as we know it. And, situation will escalate into more bloody violence and will make sure that, we are on the back foot and all. And there's no way you can initiate a proper political, reform and see it through. I think, anybody who was part of that particular decision making and post that would be a very happy man, seeing the fact that, violence has come down.
Prime Minister spoke about it today. 370 in his interview to a wire agency, he spoke about political dynasties and he spoke about the issue of belongingness being increased, because, 370 was being argued by a lot of naysayers that this would eat into the belongingness.
Well, eat into belongingness, whenever you are dealing with a legacy issue, there's always a different kind of perspective which is put into place. When people say that if you do this, then, you may run into this kind of situation. But that applies for every single action that is taken. And I think, it is very, very interesting to see that, none of what, the naysayers said or many people predicted, the kind of doomsday prophecies which were being made, none of that is happening. And I think, going by the look of it and going by what we are hearing, very soon we might see the announcement of assembly election, which would be a real test. And I think that will be where, that would be the real intent of Prime Minister also, to see to it, that the JNK, is ready to hold a proper state election, post delimitation exercise.
Okay. So this was on point number 1. And the on point number 1 was to register the success of Article 370. But the on point number 2 is Surjit Bhalla's take on Lok Sabha election. What can be the maximum gain for India bloc? Can their numbers come down or will they sustain themselves? After a short break.